Three, two, one. Welcome to the Lightforge. This is ADWCTA.
This is Merps. It's day 532. The hair is going insane. Your hair is just
My hair is good. I took a
wow.
shower. I started using a blow dryer. I started using brand new's blow dryer because my hair has finally reached the length that if I don't, it looks terrible. As people who have seen my stream on Friday night can attest to. Like if you just pull up that stream and just look at my hair at any time of the stream, that's what it looks like without a blow
Mm.
dryer. Anyway,
All right, man.
this is gonna get cut soon. I don't know. Like, is everyone just cutting their hair at home? Like people with short
Yeah.
hair normally? That just like, ugh.
I mean, yeah, definitely. So here's the thing. I haven't cut any hair off the top of my head, but
Mhm.
Natasha's helped me
Trim the
sort of like
sides.
trim
Yeah,
the sides and the back, right? Just so it's not
I'm getting my
um
back trim soon. Brand new helped me trim the sides, but I didn't let her do too much of it. But it's just like now I give up. I give up. I'll just let her cut it to whatever shape she wants to.
yeah.
Um, all right. So we got the best news possible after getting some really concerning news last week. So on Tuesday, when the patch came out to do all the nerfs, um, or Monday or whenever it was, there was no arena. There was no arena news. No one said anything. No one did anything. And yeah, there were nerfs, but there were no micro adjusts. But thankfully, by Friday, the micro adjust had officially kicked in. There was I don't know if it was an announcement, but someone posted on the Arena HS Reddit subreddit, like a dev. Um, so it's official, and the new meta kicked in with a freaking vengeance. Demon Hunters are right now, and keep in mind, it's only been like this for, I don't know, a little over 48 hours. And old decks are still circulating in the meta. So
Yeah.
HS replay data is not going to be accurate for a little bit, but the direction is going to be there. And Demon Hunters have already fallen to 45% win rate, which is at the very bottom.
Which is at the bottom. Yeah.
Very bottom. Second to last is Druid and Priest, both with 48.5%.
Yeah, so look, this is the Blizzard method, right? Where what they do is hand the baton to someone else, and it's like, all right, now it's your turn to be the
Mm-hmm.
best. Now it's your turn to be overpowered. There's a whole meme. It's like, and then we increased it by 50%, or like we decreased it by 50%. It's like
50%.
the
You
only
decrease
lever
by
that they have.
50%, you double. Come
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Get on
You
Blizzard's
e-
level.
you either double it or you
Or you
like
have it.
reduce it by the same magnitude. Um so that's how it is. Like Demon Hunters were number 1, now they're number 8. And like you said, their real winning
It's
percentage is
lower.
probably lower,
Yeah.
right? So the fact that they're low or bottom right now, that gap is going to grow. It's already a significant gap. Um
Don't draft Demon Hunter, guys. I know you guys want to have fun, and I agree Demon Hunter is one of the most fun classes right now, before the nerf.
yeah.
But after the nerf, apparently you don't see class cards anymore. They are just gone. So you remember
This
Rogue?
is
Like we predicted it, right? Everyone predicted
yeah.
it. There was no way they were going to be able to fix this issue without making them the Rogue from back in the day when Rogue was OP. This was Rise of Shadows when Rogue had Evil Miscreant and no micro adjust, so they had their regular hero power and a bunch of like old wild rotation cards, and so they were like, "Oh, we micro adjusted them," and then you're playing Rogue and you're like, "I have two class cards, and they are not
Yeah,
the
this
good
is
ones."
it. You are rogue, and then you have your dagger, which is great. And you have your neutral cards, which are not great, but you still have your dagger, and you're just like, oh man, any moment now, I'm gonna get my eviscerate. It's like that
Eviscerate?
eviscerate's
You didn't
coming.
have an Eviscerate in Rise of Shadows after the micro adjust? Don't lie, Merps.
Oh
Nobody
god.
had an Eviscerate.
But right now, Shaman is number 1 at a 53% win rate. Demon Hunter is the bottom at 45%, and the difference is actually quite small. If you take out Demon
Yeah.
Hunter, the second to last class is 48%. So it's a 5%
48.5% too.
true. Yeah. So it's such a small distance
Mm-hmm.
between all of the classes that aren't Demon Hunter. And I'm taking out Demon Hunter because its true win percentage has to be lower.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be surprised if it sort of equalizes at like 42
Yeah.
ish,
Yeah.
42%.
I think that's a good
Um,
guess.
I think that's the way that we're going. So for those of you that enjoyed kind of Demon Hunter for a while when it was OP, well, I hope you were satisfied with that. I hope you got your kicks in because that's not going to really happen anymore. The
Yeah.
days in which you just played Demon Hunter after Demon Hunter after Demon Hunter cards in the early game, refilled with a Skull of Gul'dan that gave you more Demon Hunter cards. No more. You just are playing with big old whelps and twin tyrants, which good job, everyone has it. So
Um. So for by the way, I'm 100% sure this is what happened, and I'm sure Blizzard just bit the bullet. I think anyone at Blizzard who thought about it would have known this was going to happen, and they're just like, "This is fine. People aren't really going to complain for at least a little bit." But what happened is Blizzard did the adjustments by hand, and then they micro adjusted while keeping those adjustments still in because they all their data is from after the micro adjust, and so their micro
yeah,
adjust system didn't work. That's my guess of what happened. So they can, do a new round with new data from here, and then hit the reset button and everything. And they may, but they have also announced that they weren't, at least for the nerf side of things. Blizzard announced that they just weren't going to. They were going to keep things stable for a little bit. And who knows if they're going to do that for the arena, but I imagine because the arena usually gets less priority than the overall game, that we're going to be in this micro adjust zone for like at least 2-3 weeks, if not for the rest of the meta.
yeah, I would say this, and it's similar to something I talked about last week as well. It's like if you look at how Arena is problematic, it's easy to blame Demon Hunters, but really it's not like the Demon Hunters' fault. It's because Demon Hunters came out when this rotation came out, and yes, they were quite powerful in the beginning, but like you should want more of a Demon Hunter esque playstyle
Yes.
rather than a priest slash shaman esque playstyle.
Yes.
That is probably not healthy for the longevity of the game. You can have a priest meta or a shaman meta, but we're talking big picture, general stuff here. Um, you want a demon hunter play style more so like tempo oriented, early game matters,
Mm-hmm.
definitely
And then
curve
you have ways
matters
to
more.
refill your hand. Like it's
Yep.
all good, and demon hunters are basically out of the meta now. So what is this meta that Merps is talking about that we've settled into? Well, this is literally the exact meta we predicted before the expansion came out, because this is the correct meta. Like, for lack of a better way of saying,
Correct
this is
meta.
the meta that if you took all the cards in the pool and you put them in, this is what you're supposed to get. And everybody plays all the classes evenly, and there's no micro adjust. This is what you would get. Now, everybody played Demon Hunter, and Demon Hunters were really good as the Demon Hunter started skewing the meta of what the meta should have been. But now, micro adjust corrects for that, and so we are now in the meta that we all kind of expected. We were kind of halfway there when they nerfed the Demon Hunter offering rates, but we are now fully there. Decks are freaking gigantic. I have like 3 6 drops, 3 7 drops, and like 1 8 drop in a deck, and it ain't big enough to like win all my matchups. I'm winning like maybe most of my matchups at that point on the card advantage side, but not all of them.
Well, yeah, you're not beating the guy with a double box of Yogg Saron and 2 Scrapyard Colossus.
Oh yeah. Speaking of a double box of Yogg Saron, I don't know if it's just my luck, but I have been able to draft the card, and I have seen the card be used by way more mages now than I would expect for an epic card. I guess there's no downside anymore because you're always going to get to 10 mana, and it's like insane card advantage and potentially gets you back on the board.
It's insane because yes, you get to 10 more often, and you don't have as much pressure. Because here's the thing about Box of Yogg Saron, right? If you open up your definition, and this is all situational, right? If you open up the definition of okay, what's a good box for me, then it's amazing. It's even better, right?
Yep.
If you're saying, okay, the box has to do specific thing, then it might not be as amazing, right? But if you're in a neutral kind of position, or if they're slightly ahead and all you need is some sort of board clear, you don't need like it's like, okay, I need to deal 6 damage to everything or a twisting nether. Then box is amazing. So I think because of that, it's like I mean, Box is great right now. And you're going to see it a lot. There's also a lot of just generation period, right? So
Yeah.
you're able to generate like lots of different spells. Um, it's just it's very much so a clown fiesta with tons and tons of tempo cheats, with tons and tons of really annoying stall tactics. That's kind of it. It's a 3-for-1 meta.
Yep.
It's just 3-for-1s for 3-for-1s for 3-for-1s, and
Now,
then whoever gets the most one of those wins.
so you're now expected to have something like 6 3-for-1s in your deck.
Yeah.
Um, so it is a 3-for-1 meta, but you're not actually going to get 3-for-1 for any of the things you're putting
No,
out there
no.
because your opponent are also playing 3-for-1 cards. So your cards are
Yeah.
basically now in like these categories of like really good, not so good, and total trash that is just a thumb on the scale of you losing. And you're gonna have to play with that in mind. On the good side, this meta. So I think my overall review of this meta, after having played it for like literally just one night, but my overall review of this meta so far is pretty good. It's I think this meta, especially if they bring Demon Hunter back to a reasonable level, I think this is the best meta Blizzard possibly could have done given their tools. And without
Given what we have,
yeah,
sure.
given the tools
Sure.
that we have and without like going away from the standard meta. Because the cards are just so like poorly designed for the arena. Because they weren't designed for the arena, right? But I expected definitely much worse. Even after the micro adjusts, I expected a much worse meta. But I had a bit of hope in the weeks leading up to it as I saw the effects of this expansion come in to mitigate the Year of the Dragon craziness that's happening. And Ashes of Outlands, pretty good stabilization relative to Year of the Dragon set, and with that offering bonus, and then with some micro adjusts to bring down the most ridiculous Year of the Dragon cards, you're in a pretty good spot. And I don't mean you're in a pretty good spot as in there are no or even that much fewer 3-for-1 cards out in the meta, but you've created what Blizzard wanted to create. This was Blizzard's philosophy, right? Which is if everybody's super powerful, then it's fair. And we're like, no, but the swings are too ridiculous. Well, one of the ways to make the swings less ridiculous is to make sure all the games drag on to a really long time. So then you have more chances to swing back. Like if you're drawing 20 cards out of 30, that's more stabilizing than if you're drawing 15 cards out of 30, right? Assuming like it's just the more cards you see, the more stable your game is, and the less curve matters, the more stable your game is. In terms of if you miss a curve, it doesn't absolutely kill you. So
Sure.
there are some stabilizing factors in, and they're doing the best they can. I would say we're in an above average meta now, which is a shocking statement that I would have said you're crazy if you told me this like a month ago. But I think we are in an above average meta right now. It's very different than a lot of the metas that we've seen before because it is very late game oriented. It is very card advantage oriented. But tempo still matters. I had a deck that was missing like 2 cards on the curve, and it was very clear to me why I was losing. Like not having 2 cards on curve. Like it matters less now whether your curve card is like a 4-3 or 3-4, or if it's just like a 3-3. You just need something to do. You can't like just skip your turn.
I think that's a good point. It's like the quality of your curve doesn't matter as much, or sort of if you have like a understated 2, an understated 4, that matters less because you have the cleanup tools at 6 and 7, but you need to get to 6 and 7. Like it's going to hurt significantly more if you don't at least put something sacrificial out there to at least tank some damage to give you that breathing room,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that those cleanup tools on 6, 7, and 8 are actually useful and not just a stopgap before you get punched in the face and die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta. I mean, that's where the meta is right now. Don't leave your curve behind, but don't spend a lot of resources on it, because if you are spending your resources on having a solid curve and giving up really nice big minions for it, you're not going to have enough big nice minions or like good card draw to last to the late game. And there's not enough reach in this game unless you're like very specific classes to get you there. So
I think that's a general good idea. It's sort of like pick up curve where you can pick it up. You certainly don't want to give up on value. So just take what the draft gives you in terms of like, okay, you want to make sure you're loaded with value and like at the end of the
Yeah.
game. But you have to get there first. So yeah, like if you have an Iron Fur Grizzly and you're not really going down in value by picking it, yeah, just pick up that Iron Fur Grizzly. It's great. It's a 3/3 taunt even.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Definitely don't give up value to get it, but also don't think that like, ew, this is an Iron for Grizzly. It sucks, which is true. It's an Iron for Grizzly. It sucks. I still want to pick this like mediocre 6 drop. It's like no. You'd rather have a crappy 3 and an amazing 9 or 10 drop
Yeah.
rather than an like double okay 6 drops.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
make sure you do that. Like pick the Iron for Grizzly without going down in value if you can. Because I think what some people will do, they'll look at it as like, okay, curve doesn't matter, so I never pick the Grizzly. It's like, no, that Grizzly is going to help you so much by allowing you to get and allowing you to safely draft those boxes of Yogg-Sarongs, all of those big cards that just like absolutely win you the game. Your Dragon Queen, Alexstrasza's, whatever you want.
Yep. So if you're ending your draft and you don't have like a curve in certain areas, especially on 3 and 4, that's bad. Like,
Yeah.
that's still bad. That's almost as bad as it usually is, like on average. Like this meta's not helping you that much compared to what you may think it does. On 2, depending on what your hero power, you may be able to get away with some of them. And of course, I'm not talking about Demon Hunters at all now, because you shouldn't be playing Demon Hunter. That's not fun and not good, and why? But
why would you play the new class if you're not going to get class cards?
Yeah, I mean the hero power is still great, but like it's
but
very neutered.
Yeah.
So where the one thing that I haven't tested yet, and I'll test it over the course of the next week and see how it goes. Is aggro, because I lose to aggro decks. I see some aggro decks, but I haven't played it. Like, could aggro basically work in this meta? Now, the first thing to know about aggro is that aggro in this meta, even if it works, is not that aggro. Because you never have to be that aggro. And there's way too many like 3 mana, 4 mana, 5 mana taunts for a very thin deck to survive. And you don't need to be that thin, because no one is going to like get out ahead of you or defend properly, like if you just like give them a couple turns. What you need in an aggro deck is not the traditional like I just put a bunch of minions on the board aggro deck. You need removals because of these 3-for-1 unfair cards Merps keeps talking about. A lot of those 3-for-1 unfair cards are also taunts. So, especially if you're aggro, you need efficient ways to get rid of those things. Like, you need to be able to see. I suck at names for some of these Year of the Dragon cards I haven't seen in a while until this meta. But if you see like a Bone Wraith, you have to have a solution for it that is not kill 3 minions off my board, right?
Yep.
If you see a Rustied Raider, you have to be able to not use your removals and still get past it.
Rustied Raider is the bane of aggro. Like
so much taunt.
It's so much taunt. They remove something, and for aggro decks, them leaving behind a Silverback Patriarch is terrible. It's terrible. It's game losing. It's like, oh my god, I got to deal 5 damage and I get a Silverback Patriarch.
Yep.
Game's over. You just got farmed by Silverback Patriarch.
Yep. So, like the aggro, the bright side to all of this for a potential aggro deck is that your Evasive Dragon, it doesn't have an offering bonus, and that's the one that you basically can't get past unless you're like Priest and you have Aeon Reaper. But a lot of the other ones are just as ridiculous. And one of the ones I wanted to talk about today is the new card that came in, the one that has an offering bonus, and the one that you will see a lot. And that is Bone Chewer Vanguard. The card good bad. Bone Chewer Vanguard is rated a 124. Bone Chewer Vanguard is a 7 mana 4/10 with taunt, and every time it gets hit, it gets +2 attack. So
it's a meta-defining card. You see it a ton.
Yeah.
Holy crap, you see it a ton.
Everybody has it. It has a good win rate. Not significantly better than where we rate it, but it has a good win rate, and you do see it so often. It's a common card. It's a common neutral card with an offering bonus, and it fits the meta like a freaking glove.
Yeah.
Like, you stop your... Because one of the problems with the swing meta is you're always afraid your opponent's going to swing, you're going to swing back, but your swing is just tempo-oriented and not too much, like, initiative necessarily. And then they just hit you to the face because they've swung so hard, they're going to deal 20 damage to your face in one turn, and then you just can't recover from that. So, as part of your counter swings, it's always really, really, really good to have initiative cards, and taunts are like a half initiative card.
Yeah.
Bone True Vanguard was insane, and everybody saw its value with Demon Hunters, especially because they didn't really have hard removals. But a lot of classes these days either don't have hard removals or don't have much hard removals. Or if you're a priest, don't have hard removals for a certain period of time for certain triggers, so they'll still have to very inefficiently deal with your Bone True Vanguard.
Right.
So
they at least have to knock something into it, and then they can death it.
Yeah.
Right. So
if you go down the list, like, Hunter has only soft hard removal. Druids don't have hard removal at all, hard or soft. Demon Hunter has a silence but no hard removal. Mage has hard removals. Paladins have only soft removal, and priests have hard removals, but situational with regard to this card. Rogue has removals. Shaman has removals. Warlock has removals, and Warriors don't have removals. So you're at a 50-50 chance of whether Bone True or Vanguard is going to totally screw your opponent. Like,
yeah,
that's pretty good.
That's about as much as you can hope for in this meta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty meta-defining card, and you should always be prepared to deal with it, especially if you're going into, like, a little bit more aggro direction. So for a potential aggro deck, your problem is that everyone's playing so slow that you really don't need to finish the game by 7. It's kind of inefficient for you to finish the game by 7 because you can still be faster than everyone else and get the damage in and be fine if you go, like, to, like, even turn 9. On the other hand, as soon as you get to turn 7, Bone True Vanguard is going to come out. Wrap Golem is going to come out. Evasive Draconid may come out. And those are kind of game killers if you don't have your, like, Pyroblast or Fireballs. And most classes don't have those cards. So that's really the bind. And so you need to be able to deal with that if you're trying to play an aggro deck. And so the question is, can you? And we listed a bunch of classes with hard removals, right? So of those classes, the good aggro candidates are the ones that can actually, like, deal with it and deal with it well. So Mage is a good aggro candidate, even though it's also... Mage is just good right now. Very flexible class. Paladins are an okay aggro candidate because of Subdue and Libram. They're soft removals, but they're, like, some of the more powerful soft removals. I'm not going to talk about Priest and aggro. Rogues are a good aggro class right now. Most people don't play them that way, but you can make a pretty powerful aggro rogue, at least in theory. I haven't tried it yet, but they have their weapon reach, which is outside of Mage and what do you call it, Hunter, as good of a reach as you're going to get, and they have a lot of, like, combo-y cards. So I would say Rogue is a good candidate. I'd say Shaman's a good candidate, except Shamans are just so good at control right now. Like, yes, they have Vivid Spores. Yes, they have Storm's Wrath. But, like, their control cards of Walking Fountain and Eye of the Storm and, like, I don't know, like... I think you can do anything with Shaman right now. And aggro is one of them. So if your deck is leaning aggro... Because remember, this is also no buckets anymore. So Blizzard kind of determines what your deck is going to do a lot. So if your deck is leaning aggro and Shaman, I don't think it's a bad idea. You have a good amount of support for that. And Warlock, obviously, you can always try to go Zoo, which turns into aggro if your opponent messes up. So yeah, Warrior, I don't know what to do with Warrior right now. I think Warrior right now, their main game plan is to get swings with Imprison Gennard. Yeah, like, I think that's really their main game plan.
Gennard on 1 and you won. And if you don't have it, on to the next one.
It's like, it's aggro in that they're like forced. It's really mid range. It's really mid range and opportunistic, and that's usually how warriors play well anyway. There's nothing too special about this particular meta for them. But like we're talking about the slow, like paced out meta that most decks are engaging in, but you can see these pockets of potentially really good, more aggressive decks. And I'm talking about more aggressive decks, as in you want to finish your opponent off by like 9-10 mana, not aggressive decks that want to finish your opponent off by like turn like 6-7. So this would be what would previously be considered a mid-range deck. Those decks are now considered aggressive decks.
Yeah.
Because the normal decks go to like turn 15 easily.
The days of true aggro are gone. It won't be this rotation. It won't be the next rotation. It would have to be somewhere in the distant future. But true aggro is gone. It is what it is.
Yep. So that's where I wanted to set the stage for where the arena meta is right now. And we'll talk more about it next week, because the Microadjusts hit on like Thursday evening, which means and no decks are retired, so they're like slowly infiltrating the arena. And so the meta is kind of in this like adjustment period. So we'll know more about how the meta actually feels on the ground over the course of the next week. But for now, this is where things are going. This is what we've seen for the one night that I played during the transition period. And we're gonna play Mage today, so we'll see how that goes. Yeah. So Bone Chewer Vanguard, by the way, good. We rated a 124. I would personally rate it in this meta even higher than a 124, and its win rates back up the fact that it's higher than a 124. Like right now, the meta is so slow, and like I'll phrase it a different way. The metas in which the person with the higher card advantage wins, and it's just purely a battle of card advantage and nothing else, will happen at about a quarter to a third of your games. And that is the highest it has ever been, where pretty much nothing else matters, because both of you just have slow decks that are doing card advantage. And if you look at win rates, for example, for like cards that are not terribly interesting to play, but are potentially powerful, and we did not rate them as high, Scrapyard Colossus is a big one. At 114, that's the 10 mana 7/7 with a 7/7 taunt. It's just big and taunty. It has 14 health with a divider in the middle of taunts, and it can't be hard removed. Like,
it's got to be, you need Polymorph, Hex in order to actually deal with it. Because otherwise, if you're using like even a good removal, let's say like 4 or a 5 mana hard removal, well, they're still getting a 7/7 body with let's say 5 or 6 mana, which is still quite good. And you used one of your high value removals on the first body. So it is quite annoying.
I think once the meta really settles, and people, because the meta always starts off with people being more conservative and not fast. And then it gets faster. Once people find these pockets and perfect these pockets of aggro type decks that they're capable of using. And as they get more comfortable doing it in a generally slow meta. So once those pockets open up, you're going to see Scrapyard Colossus's downsides be more apparent. But right now, in the current meta, I would draft Scrapyard Colossus higher than 114. Like, it's a 10 mana card. I would draft all 10 mana cards higher than where they are on our tier list. Because the meta right now is where it's at. Now, without them
finally, your Colossus of the Moon rating, you're just like, oh, look, I've known it all along. Because that's always been a card in which everyone has been like, I don't know about this one, guys. And I agree. I was like, I don't know about this one. But you've been very insistent on Colossus of the Moon. And now you're just like, I told you guys.
Okay, Colossus of the Moon is a 126. So I don't know why people keep thinking it's like trash tier. Like,
I don't know about but I mean,
like it draws.
We had it there for a while, for quite a while, but and I would say it was not a 124 for in that period of time.
But okay, you can still 10 damage to the face because no one's removing it. Like, it's just so much stuff. Ugh.
I don't know. No, but right now, I think you can definitely point to the Colossus of the Moon haters and be like, aha. I got you guys.
I mean, it's no Octasari. That's a 185.
Oh
And
god.
if you're wondering why Octosari is so good, it's because you can actually draw your cards, and all of your cards are also big. So you have one Octosari, and whenever you draw it, you don't lose the card advantage war. So it's just, these are stuffs. Also, I don't know, maybe I've just been getting lucky, but I've been seeing a lot of legendaries. So I don't know if it's just that the Year of the Dragon before this was so swingy that I didn't care when I saw legendaries because the Twin Tyrants were better than the most of the legendaries that you saw anyway. And now that things are actually like calmed down a bit because the offering bonus has gone away and it's on a more sane set, this set really is pretty freaking sane overall. Like if you take out Morag Artificer, which again, like we said, like curve, like having an extra curve doesn't win games like as hard as it used to. So if you take out all the epic cards, your highest neutral card is like 135. Like it's really pretty under control.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
It's more under control than I thought it was going to be. It's actually like a very stable set, and that's really what's forming the counterweight to the Year of the Dragon craziness. That's making this a bearable meta. So yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to see where this meta goes. I'm excited to find some more aggressive, also known as typically mid-range, ways to fight against all the slowness in the meta. But yeah, if you were just listening to us, and I know a lot of people who listen don't play or play intermittently, this is actually a good time to jump into the meta. And you know us, or I guess me, Merps is still like arena. This is like I'll give Blizzard props. This is as good as I could have imagined it overall for the set and for the microadjusts and for just everything. Assuming that they did not add new features to the arena and they did not like change the sets that are in the arena. So without like the hard work, right? The hard workingness of building new systems. This is the best they could do. And they did it. And usually, I feel like in most metas, they fall far short of doing what they could do easily, right? They don't even do the low-hanging fruit. Or they like fail at doing the low-hanging fruit somehow. So this is pretty good. And people, I think you guys should enjoy it. Because I don't know what, like next time Blizzard does something to mess with the meta, who knows if it's going to make it like very screwy again.
Yeah. Because I think it's important that this isn't Blizzard sort of doing all of this stuff,
Yeah.
right? It's like yes, there's Team 5, but card creation is different from how they set up the arena, right?
Yeah.
So with if we separate out the fact that there's nothing that we can really do about the card creation process because they don't think about the arena, given what they have done with these cards and in creating them, this is sort of the best case scenario for what they could do with it. Now, whether or not you find it as with like fun or not, there is something to be said about like sort of okay, you optimize the most out of a, you can call it bad situation, or you can call it a swinging meta, which that deserves some credit there, definitely. So
yep. And if you want to check out the lightforge.com for our tier list, we made a huge update. We hadn't done this in like a year to make an update of this scale because the meta really is different, and so we had to change a couple of the assumptions that we made that were just like baked in, and made them smarter to adjust for stuff that we were like, it would never be like this, and it was like, no, well, we were wrong. The meta is like this now, and so a lot of all the cards change scores. Overall, you'll basically see cards with more card advantage. Cards with more card advantage that are more easily playable be better, and cards that either have less advantage or are more iffy to be played worse. Because one of the issues with having a high card advantage deck is you don't get to use all the card advantage because you die before that. That's why card advantage itself is usually not better than tempo. So if you have something that's really like difficult to use, it's still really difficult to use, and you may have turns that you can't do anything. Because if all of your cards are 4, 5, 6, 7 mana stuff, you may have a hand of like 4 cards. It's turn 5, and you have nothing to play because the thing you needed to play on turn 5 was situational. Like, I've had this happen to me, and it feels so bad. I had a priest deck, It had like a tempo enforcer, and that was like, I'm gonna have to play without the buff so often. And more importantly, it had a freaking Cabal Shadow Priest, and that was like unplayable on so many turns, and just like sitting like a dead weight in my hand. And I'm like, I need to play stuff, because if I don't play stuff, I don't get to use my cards. And Cabal Shadow Priest lost me more games than it won. We currently have it at a 105, but we're looking into that because we made some systemic changes and it dropped all the attack below X kind of cards. So we're taking a look at it right now. It may go up, but I don't think it's going to go back up to anywhere near where it used to be. Because
I do agree though, because like if you're playing Priest, you have so many reactive cards.
Mhm.
You need your reactive cards to be more open, and then if they're very close, like a Cabal Shadow Priest is a very closed situation, right?
Mhm.
And the upside isn't that big.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the problem with it. It's like the swings, like you need to hit sort of a very specific scenario, and then even if you hit it, it's like, oh yay, the swing is still significantly smaller than like a Twin Tyrant.
Yeah.
So what the hell is the point?
Right.
I don't like. It's like you can't play it a lot of the times, and when you do hit it, if it's smaller than a Twin Tyrant, man, like it's not enough, right?
Keep
And
in
you're
mind,
gonna have
this was
so
a
many
card that
offers.
was like a 140, 150 in most prior metas. And it's a
Yeah.
105 now, and I don't know how much it's gonna get raised when we change it, but I don't think it's gonna be like anywhere near that score.
Yeah, so once again, it's like as a priest, you have a lot of situational cards that you want. It's like, and their effect, the payoff is so great. So when you have a choice, because you literally can't have all situational cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's because you're just gonna get caught. It's like, do you want a bad situational card like Cabal Shadow Priest is now, which is crazy, or do you want, like we talked about in Card Good Bad, a thick 7-mana taunt, right?
Yeah.
That's great. You definitely want that taunt more than a Cabal Shadow Priest now, because the quality of your other huge swing cards are much swingier and are not as conditional. So
Yeah, or if they
yeah, you
are
want to.
as conditional, they have a bigger payoff. The Cabal Shadow Priest has a
Yeah,
lame
yeah.
Yeti body that's attached to it. That's really not doing it any favors.
The original body also sucks now. Like the four
Yeah.
five body on turn 6, it just is really crappy.
Like if a Yeti was your average size minion that you're dealing with, it was like okay. But now like you have so many 7 drops and 8 drops and 10 drops, like you're
Yeah.
dealing with like 6/6s all the time.
Yeah, no, it's just really bad against a lot of things that either deal 5 damage, or if you look at one of the very common 6-mana drops, which is the 5/6 dragon that spawns a
Yeah.
3/4 dragon, right? It just dies, and even if you steal a 2, that still gets farmed by that very common, and let's say, like, let's be honest, not that valuable 6 drop. That's like your average 6 drop now.
I
It's
mean,
like fine.
it's good still.
It's good,
Like
but like
it's a little above average
it's
for
what you
what's
expect
in
from a
your
deck.
yeah, right.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah, it's what you expect.
124 and your deck is a 120, a little below, like maybe a 118 or something. So it's like a little above average. You want it in your deck. But also very few curve cards are now above a 124. Like if you look at 2 drops, Henge Clan Hogsteed is above a 124. That's it. There's no other 2 drops. Like Morag Artificer, that's an epic. And then Zephyrs, that's a legendary. You look at 3 drops above a 124. Wait, hold on. I just realized I hadn't done there were 2 updates. There was one regular update, and then there was an update that actually, yeah, okay. There was an update that actually adjusted for the nerfs. So I was like, and Albatross is, I was like, no, Albatross is not a 3 drop anymore. So yeah, so above a 124, you have Frozen Shadow Weaver. That's the only card that's common or rare in neutral that's above a 124 in 3. And on 4, you have the Skies Wanderer, Troll Batrider, questionably as a 4 drop, and Burrowing Scorpid, questionable as a 4 drop.
It makes a lot of sense.
So yeah, so like Dragon Ball Skystalker is a really good drop for what it is. And if you just add the numbers together, it should be, right? It's giving up 1/1's worth of stats for a death rattle of 3/4 compared to your ogre.
Split bodies are also good right now.
Yeah.
Like whatever you want to do, you don't want to commit everything to a single body. This is why Scrapyard Colossus is decent, right? On turn 10, is a 7/7 taunt still applicable? Yes, very much so. And then you're splitting it, so that's great.
All right.
That's sort of the arena now.
Yep.
Here's what I'll say: it's fine, it's decent. I think it's very playable. Definitely much more playable than it was like a week ago. Still too swingy for me. It's something that I will keep an eye out on. Still a little bit too swingy for me. And I think it's just one of those things where, as long as it is this rotation, I don't know if Microadjusts will get me back into the game. But I do agree with you. Like the game is in a decent state for what it is. It's just way too swingy for my taste.
Yeah. And the swings are definitely still there. It's I think Blizzard's coming closer to their vision of how swings are supposed to work. But a lot of the new neutral cards are actually like very interesting. Like from overconfident orc to like your rusty raider, your burrowing scorpid, all the aug merchants. Like neutral arena is at a high point right now, I think, in terms of like general interestingness.
Yeah, definitely. I think we have kind of this design discrepancy, or this sort of discrepancy in which I don't know if the designers are thinking of it in this way, but you can look at it. If any of you guys watch Constructed at all, and you look at the swings in Arena, and you might think it's like, whoa, what? Arena is still very tame, right? Like,
Yeah.
which is true. It's very tame, but it's like it's about what you accept going in. And no matter what in Constructed, you can always ground any sort of frustration or any sort of lack of feeling of control by going back to you put these 30 cards.
Yep.
In.
You just pick a different deck.
You pick this, and you can complain about all of this stuff, but it's like if there is a strong meta deck out there, you can always play the mirror.
Yep.
You can literally always play the mirror. You can choose to play the mirror, and you can choose to play with the exact same cards, and then you can complain about it being a 50-50 game, but at least it's a 50-50 game. And then with whatever happens in there, you have already climbed most of the mountain just by you having that choice there. And that choice is absent in Arena, which makes it so much more frustrating. Because yes, you are choosing quote unquote in the draft, but in like that sort of randomized draft process actually makes it more frustrating to a person. And I don't know, like maybe this is something in which some people might look at and it's like, okay, well, we can still tolerate more of this in Arena because look how much people tolerate in Constructed.
But people are in the Arena to escape Constructed, to escape that.
Yeah, to escape that. And then you like if you let go of this feeling of control by being able to put your cards into the deck, you're just tossing yourself fully into this process of drafting and then playing. It definitely feels a lot worse. It feels a lot worse, and I think it's already too much for a lot of people. Certainly, when I read comments on Reddit, it seems like people are very more frustrated than usual because
they're less frustrated than Descent of Dragons. That was really a high point, I think, of like frustration with like everything, like generally in terms of like card swings. It wasn't like just even one particular card, although Tyrant got the most of it. But yeah, I mean, this is where things are right now. I don't think they can pull it back. It's just like, buckle up, get used to it. I'm just glad that Ashes of Outlands was good, because maybe now the next set will also be good. And then maybe we'll get over this Year of the Dragon thing in another year. Who knows?
Maybe. I don't know.
All right, let's talk about Battlegrounds.
Let's talk about Battlegrounds. the superior mode.
Battlegrounds is we'll talk about the meta in a bit, and specifically Flurgl, because oh my god, we really need to talk about Flurgl. We really need more people to talk about Flurgl, not just us. But first, in news, I am now a 10K player. Hit a high of 10.1K earlier yesterday.
10.1K.
But I hit 10K on Friday night after the stream. After I ended the stream and sent everybody along, I loaded up Battlegrounds an hour after I ended the stream, and I played a match, and we got there. So I'm now officially a 10K player, and I wrote a Reddit post about my philosophy. You can go on Reddit and find it. It's called oh god, what is it called? Guide for kids who can't click good but want to do other Battleground stuff good too. Yeah. Which I think describes my general philosophy and approach to Battlegrounds. And I outlined my strategy, which is half like what would be a good what would be an ideal strategy, and half like what I'm actually capable of doing. It's a mix of the two, and I don't present it as the ideal strategy for people who have all of their mental and physical capabilities. But for most people, I think we don't have all of our mental and physical capabilities, and I think this conservative play style, one, it's proven to work, and at least up until a certain rank, and it's a pretty high rank. I don't think this will work in top 200s. And whenever a top 200 player is like, "Oh, I think you're wrong about this," I'm like, this is way over your head. You did not understand the point of this post. I do not disagree that you should not be doing this in top 200. I specifically say that in the beginning. But I think it'll be helpful for people who just want to climb and maybe don't want to deal with a lot of the swings. So my strategy, I keep talking about every time I play Battlegrounds on stream, and like a lot of Twitch chat is like, what? Why? What? This is crazy. But I'm here. I'm at 10K now, and I still don't have time to finish a quarter of my turns in terms of like positioning, and I don't know. I probably don't finish half my turns in terms of scouting. But I've cut down the rate that I hang gold to like 10% of turns, and that's really helped. And the rate of actually having like cards stuck in my hand or like other like totally terrible like turns to like maybe like less than 5%. Those have helped, but I still do them. And so you could be a 10K player too while messing up a lot. And my strategy is just to settle for 5th. Like if you keep getting 5th, and I'm very good at consistently getting 5th.
Well, don't keep getting 5th.
Oh, right, getting at least 5th. If you keep getting at least 5th, yes, if you keep getting 5th, you will drop. But if you keep getting at least 5th, so often you'll get higher than 5th, and you'll be fine. And a lot of the things you need to do to consistently get 5th are just a lot easier than trying to get 1st over 3rd. Like, just a lot easier. Because, like, to get 1st these days, you have to have, like, some ridiculous comp. Getting 2nd is a lot easier these days, but getting 3rd is even more easy, and just, like, getting 6 is, like, so easy. And getting 5 takes a little bit of effort, but you can do it. So that's where I draw the line.
Getting 8th is real easy, let me tell you that.
But at a certain point, it doesn't help. Whereas 5th is just close enough to the line that you're like, all right, I can consistently get like 5th and 4th, and I'll rank up. The EV for a perfect player, that's not the right EV. You're gonna do better following the strats that you see from other streamers. But check out the guide. I won't go into too much detail here because I wrote it all up. But
look at ADWCTA suddenly writing guides for Battlegrounds.
See,
He went from wasting 3 gold on turn 10 to writing guides. What a world we live in.
I still waste 3 gold on turn 10. Like,
yeah, you actually wrote a guide saying how it was okay to waste 3 gold on turn 10. What a world.
Yeah.
What a world.
Yeah. It's just like I write guides in Arena, and I'm like, misplays don't matter, right? You don't have to spot lethal. What you really need to care about is how to calculate how much tempo you have on the board versus your opponent's tempo and how big you anticipate the swing is. Like, that's going to make a big difference. It's my philosophy on any kind of game with, like, a significant strategy aspect. Like, the strategy aspect to any game that is a somewhat strategy game, you could be, if you just improve your strategy by, like, 2%, you'll wipe away, like, almost all, if not more than all, of your small dumb mistakes. Now, big dumb mistakes you can't come back from. So, like, step 1, stop making big dumb mistakes. And step 2, focus on strategy after that, and don't worry too much about like the other stuff. I mean, don't just like leave it aside. You may be better at doing that stuff than I am, but for me, it's just like really hard. It takes a lot of thought and attention span, and it's not worth it to me. I'd rather go for the strategy side. Anyway, it's a weird time for me to write the guide because I write it at a point in which I am transitioning away from doing the stuff in the guide because I've gotten so high that strategy doesn't work as well anymore. It still works, I'm still climbing, but I'm like in the middle of my adjustment. I feel like if I ever become an 11k player, before I get to an 11k player, I have to switch my strategy because this one, like I did the math on it, you're just not going to be able to get to 11k. But you are also able to get to 10k while making quite a lot of mistakes. So it has its purpose, and the reason is the middle line, right? Like right now at 10k, every time I get 4.5th, I lose 7 points. Back in 9k, I lost like
exactly
0 points.
Your climb kind of in StarCraft, right? Where your example. So it's like you were able to get into like masters, but you
Yeah.
weren't able to get into like the grand. Like you can't get into grandmasters,
Oh
right?
no, well, I mean, I was in the highest league in StarCraft in the first 2 months, but I wasn't like a top
Well,
player
they
in the
created
league.
an additional league after that, which is
Okay.
just like, okay, these are the top like pro players essentially. Like this is where they are at. So
Yeah, I was
yeah,
like in the middle of the highest league when the game launched for the first 2 months.
right. Which is, and once they created that league, it was it's similar to the leaderboards here that we have
Yeah.
in BGs, right?
Okay.
You have your top 200 players, and which is still very different
Yeah, and
from
top 200 right now is like 10.8, maybe
10.8.
10.9
Yeah,
at this point.
it's
I
a
don't know.
10.8.
10.8, yeah. So like I view like 11k as a shorthand for saying top 200. But yeah, just focus on what you can do as a human being that is not the most gifted gamer in the world.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so with Battlegrounds, after the Millhouse nerf, it's opened up the lobby significantly. It's a brand new world. It's the wild, wild west out there. Everyone has a chance. All right, this is Frontierland, and everyone's trying to carve out a piece for themselves. What that really means is pre-nerf, Millhouse affected the lobby in this way. Um, you had the haves, which is either Millhouse and the people that did not get chunked in by Millhouse in the early game, which didn't face the Millhouse. And you had the have-nots, which include the people that got chunked by Millhouse in the early game. So, what did this do to lobbies during that meta? Well, those people that got chunked by Millhouse early on, because it wasn't uncommon to take like 10 damage on your 6 gold and 7 gold turns if you face Millhouse during that time, which is way too much damage for way too early in the game. Well, what happened then? Like, let's say, we can split up like the 4 players that are doing fine versus the 4 players that got way too damaged in the early game. Well, those 4 players that got way too damaged in the early game, they ended up having to like turtle up a little bit, play a little bit more defensively. So, what does that do? That actually semi keeps the top. That wasn't Millhouse because Millhouse just defied all the rules, but it kept the other 3 players at least a little bit restrained. Now, so I think a lot of people wrongly believe that it's like, oh, like Millhouse sped up the lobby by a significant amount. No. Millhouse sped up Millhouse by a lot, which means, yes, the first person to reach tier 6 in a lobby was incredibly fast, but all the other pathetic scrubs that didn't have this ridiculous hero power were sort of caught in this quagmire, and maybe 1 or 2 people escaped that to compete with Millhouse in the late game, but everyone else was, trying to battle it out. Post Millhouse, because you don't have this separation of haves and have-nots like there was before. You still have people that take early game damage, blah 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 blah. But because you don't have this effect anymore, you have more people that are able to hope and reach for this end game dream, right? So essentially what that does is, instead of, it's like, okay, you have Millhouse and then you have the 2 or 3 people that escape sort of this quagmire and are able to get there. Now instead of this like one or two person in addition to Millhouse reaching for the end game, everyone has at least a shot, and everyone's gonna kind of shoot their shot. And if they miss, maybe they turtle up, maybe they go a little bit defensively. But now you have so many more shots per lobby of people trying to get that endgame dragon comp, that endgame beast comp, that
and they
endgame Murloc
do
comp.
get there, boy.
They do get there.
They get there.
A lot of people get there. This is why you guys will see in lobbies right now. You're just like, wait, the top 3 are all Murlocs? It's like, how does that happen? Or it's like, wait. The guy with Calgos Nadina died 3rd? Like, how the heck does that happen? That happens a lot now. So that is the state of BGs right now. Where and so next you might be like, wow, that must be a terrible meta. If it's equal and everyone is doing this, there's still a lot of strategy involved. There's still a lot of risk assessment involved.
Also, again, this is about hitting 1st or 2nd place. You can hit 3rd place and then now and then get 2nd, and then if you get a perfect hand, you end up 1st. You can do that like without a comp.
Like being and
like,
also
like
being able to play.
Right.
Millhouse made sure I couldn't play a high percentage of my games. Where like if I faced Millhouse in the early game and I got chunked, that's it. My next 15 minutes, if I even survive that long, I'm just like, okay, I have no. It's just about minimizing the amount of MMR that I'm losing there, and that was a high percentage of my games. That sucked, man. At least now, if I take my chances and I miss, I'm just like, okay, you know what? At least I tried. I didn't get there. It's still a much more fun experience for me.
Yeah, and now there's 8 people, and 6 of them are going to take their chances, and 3 of them are going to fail, and 3 of them are going to hit it, and of the 3 that hit it, one's going to hit it but not be able to recover because they're already so low and die anyway. And so there's going to be 2 that really hit it, and so if you just like hang out and don't try, you're going to get on average like 4th. And that's a really strong climbing rate. That's like plus like 10 points or something. Well, plus 15 if you are like low enough. If you're closer to the top, it's probably more like plus 10 points. But plus 10 points per match of Battlegrounds. This is a decent climbing rate.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll just say this. It's still very like it's not just fun. It is a lot is still within your control. And if you feel like things are not within your control, you just don't really understand the meta fully right now. I would say I've actually been playing a decent amount. I've been doing a lot of experimentation. So I've set a baseline of.
Well, what do you mean is in your control? Like if I go for it and I don't get it, that's not in my control.
Well, no, that's you getting it all in when you are ahead in a poker hand, right?
Yeah.
I went all in.
Yeah.
And I was a 65% chance to win.
Yeah.
He might buzz. 35% chance is like that hits pretty often.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That guy's gonna bust.
It hits more than a third of the time.
Oh, very nice. Very very insightful.
Maths.
But right. So if I'm just getting in, like if I'm able to, spend 20 minutes to push all in like a 65-35 situation, that's great, right? I could lose kind of like 4 in a row. It's not out of the question. It's not like
okay. So what do you mean by in your control? Just the push is in your control?
Setting up so that it is 65% and not 60%.
I see.
That it is 70% and not 60%. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it depends on where you draw the line of what control is, right? Because if you go to like arena, right? Like, oh, there's a big swing. It's like out of my control whether I win or not. It's true. It was never in your control whether you win or not. Just like it's not in your control whether that 1/3 chance like rolls or not. But you put yourself into a better position at a certain point. Like
definitely. Yeah.
I don't know. These games, whenever I go for it, I feel very out of control. Like, and if I pick, especially like a high rolly class, and I'm looking at you, Alex. If you look at HS replay, by the way, the Alex position curve is so like everyone else. The good ones, you see a little gentle slope where they get more first, and then some seconds, then thirds, and then fourths, etc. You look at most heroes, there's a little like almost like a standard curve, like where it like has a bump in the middle, but like not quite as intense. But then you look at Alex and it's a U shape. You're like either 8th or you're 1st. And whenever I pick Alex, I'm like, well, fingers crossed. And then when it doesn't happen, I'm eighth, and that does not feel good. But the other heroes are much better.
Other heroes are great, and it might feel swingy, but you do have a lot of control in the way that we define.
Mm-hmm.
I think a good example is if you look at someone like Victor, he has just been he's been completely focusing and he's been able to climb from like under 20k to or not 20k 12k 20k. I think a lot of people are under 20k, right under 12k to almost 13k. Personally, I don't have a goal of 12k because I've calculated the number of hours, and I'm like, that would actually take way too long for me to get there.
How long would you calculate it would take you at 11k to get to 12k?
This is assuming I am as good as I like putting those assumptions in. I think it would take me about 50 hours of like good solid play.
That's not terrible.
It's not terrible, but then this is also me like not being able to experiment.
Right.
Assuming that I am assessing my skill correctly.
Yeah.
So what I've done is I'm like, okay, I've set a floor for myself of like, okay, I don't want to go below 11k. So what I'll do is I'll get up to a certain place and then I'll do a little experimentation, for example, with Flurgl, or with other heroes I think are sort of decent that I want to figure out. Right now I'm at like 11.2, and I just got to make sure I don't go like for a significant amount of time below 11 because then we're within 1,000 of each other and I can't have that.
What's your record right now? What's your MMR right now?
11.2.
Well, we're exactly 1,000 apart from each other.
All right, well, I gotta climb then. So,
thanks to Flurgl, because I took Alex and I got 8th, and then the very next run I took Flurgl, and Merps and I had this conversation like over Hangouts and over the course of many hours of us talking to each other like here and there, and I've learned how to play Flurgl from Merps just in text, never having seen anybody play Flurgl or really understanding how the Flurgl power works. And then I was just like, well, I got a crap pool of like all heroes I don't want to play, and that sucks. I might as well just pick Flurgl, which by the way is one of the worst heroes on HS Replay, even when you filter for the top 20%.
Jiraxxus is better than him.
Really? Oh no, but that's for not top 20%. On top 20%, Jiraxxus doesn't have enough data because no one picks Jiraxxus. Jiraxxus ever has enough data on the top 20%.
The entire pool.
Yeah. But for top 20%, Flurgl's still at the very bottom. So this is like a hero that like general people that you consider okay to decent to good at the Battlegrounds are like not having success with him. So he's like a meme hero. But Merps was like very convincing in that Flurgl is actually pretty damn good. So I tried him out, and you know me, I'm not a quick study when it comes to thinking quickly. And I had no trouble playing Flurgl. Like just dominated the entire thing. Didn't hit Bran until very late. Never hit a Megasaur. Never even got up to tier 6. I tripled up 3 times on tier 5 and just didn't hit anything relevant. Which is just a Megasaur. Because if you don't have a Megasaur for the Divine Shields, you're not gonna get other Divine Shields, and then getting a fish, the 8/4 fish is not good either. So even given all those problems, like I still dominated and got first. And I almost never get first because my strategy doesn't involve getting first. So that to me was like, oh my god, that was not just effective, but I don't feel like I high rolled too high. I was lucky in that no one else went Murlocs in that lobby.
That's one of the biggest misconceptions with Flurgl. People are just like, oh, but it's so random. You need to high roll. I'm like, no, if anything,
it's pretty steady.
His hero power ensure stability.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And there's only so many Murlocs you can like RNG, right? So like you have to really low roll to not get the consistency.
If you want to look at a high roll character or just a risky character, that's Alex.
Yeah.
You only get one shot, right? Or you get two shots.
Two discovers.
But like I just consider that like one total package. So you get like one burst.
And not only do you get the burst, but you also run a total RNG early game of whether you're like even in a position to do anything, even if you hit like your Caligos. Because it takes another turn to set up Caligos.
Right, you with Alex, you can't hard force dragons in the beginning. You can favor dragons, you can't hard force dragons like you can hard force murlocs with Flurgl. Because if you hard force dragons with Alex, you will literally die. You will just die without like any sort of hero power. Um, and that's like one of the differences. But I will say, Alex and Flurgl are both beneficiaries of this post Millhouse nerf universe that we live in because everyone has a chance now. Everyone has breathing room. No one is really hunkering down on tier 4. So we have this universal understanding. It's like, okay, we're all going to level up to tier 5 really fast, right? It's like, yeah, great. And
Except for people who want to get fifth.
yeah, basically. But the problem is, it's like, okay, because it's different. Even if you're just like, well, I can just exploit it by being the one person to no, you're not enough as one person. It only worked to that extent before because 3 people hunkered down. If only one person hunkers down, you know what happens to that person? They get 7th. They're able to beat up one person and kill them, or weaken them enough so that they get killed by someone else, and then they immediately get killed because that's just the way it is. So this is one of those effects in which if 3 people do it, like it keeps everyone accountable. If you can't do it yourself, right? So you just got to play the game along with everyone else. But yeah, Flurgl has definitely benefited from this. I will tell you guys a little bit of the tiering structure because I think part of the reason that people misplay Flurgl is the really strange tiering structure. And if you want to see a good example of this, I played a co-op with Slissa and Sunglitters. The very first run that we played, actually, and I had the mouse, was me with Flurgl. And you can check it out on either of their VODs, Slissa or Sunglitters. I wasn't streaming at the time. But you can see that the tiering structure is this. You actually want to stay on tier 1 for an extended period of time. It's actually quite flexible, but
listen. Before we get down to the details, I want people to really pay attention to this because how good do you think Flurgl actually is? Rank him. He's number what in the hands of an ideal player?
Oh, you want me to do? Or are you putting this out?
I'm putting this out to you.
Oh, I think he's definitely a top 10 hero. Probably around like 8th, 7th, maybe like 7, 8th.
So we're talking about like very high up.
Very high up.
This is not like, oh, we think Flurgl is useful, and he's not terrible like how the stats say. This is like Flurgl is not just a hidden gem. Flurgl is like shining brightly. Like you would take Flurgl definitely over the other Murloc that discovers a random hero power because Flurgl is better than that. Like, so, and also on top of that, I'll add that Flurgl is easy to play. It's weird in that you have to listen to this and memorize it. But once you're actually playing it, he's pretty easy to play, at least at a halfway decent level compared to most of the other heroes. Like this is not like Daryl took more getting accustomed to. This is more like just a quirk. It's more like Rafam. Like yes, you have to adjust your play a little.
He's quirky. He's quirky. But as soon as you understand his tiering structure and the reasoning for it, something should click in your head. You still won't play him optimally. I still don't think I play him optimally. And even with that, I've been getting incredibly good results with him. And what you end up doing is basically you stay on tier 1 for an extended period of time, typically at least 3 turns. It could be a little bit more, but you stay there for 3 turns at least. You pick up all the Murlocs that you can get. Obviously, you want the Tide Hunters, the 2 ones that spawn tokens. You want the rock pools. You just want to farm up a little. You want to collect pairs if you are able to. Collection of early pairs is always great. And just grabbing Murlocs in general is very good to set up a nice base, such as so that your mass buffs have a lot of targets to hit. If you watched a game I had with Slissa and Sunglitters yesterday, I think one of the reasons to watch that game is I got no Murlocs in the early game. There were 0 Murlocs. I think I went 3 turns, like turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. And at the end of that, I just had alley cats and dire wolves.
Nice.
It was really bad. So it's a great example of Well, it's like, Merps, are you saying that I need to like kind of high roll and hit all
Yeah,
these great
like is this
Murlocs? No,
Jiraxis?
no. This is definitely not. You can still do poorly with your rolls in the first few turns, but as long as you stay there, it's like, what are your chances of getting no Murlocs at all in like 4 turns?
Yeah.
5 turns. We're approaching 0 by that time. So like, I still got some Murlocs after the first 3 turns. What you want to do is farm tier 1 to get like a decent little foundation of Murlocs.
And the good part
Tier
about this is because you're staying on tier 1, you are winning
Yeah,
everything. Like
I don't know about
starting on
everything,
turn
but
2, you will not
you give
lose
yourself a good
for
chance.
like turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, you're not losing.
Mm-hmm. So, with Flurgl, tier 2 doesn't really offer you that much. You can stay on tier 2 for like a turn if, once you level up, and then the next turn on tier 2, you find like the old Merc guy plus the Murloc War Leader. Definitely buy those up. That's great. But tier 2 is definitely not where you want to be. That's low EV every single roll on tier 2. Very low EV. You want to get to 3 as much as possible. And also, when you on tier 1, like if you're lucky enough to get like a triple, you want to triple into a 3 immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you get to 3, you want to farm there for like a turn or two. And by starting to use your hero power and chaining, because on tier 3 you're introducing the Cold Light Seer and also the Felfin Navigator, +1/+1 on everything, and +2 health on everything. At that point, on your 7 gold turn, 8 gold turn, 9 gold, 10 gold turns, those buffs are amazing because people don't have brands right now. People don't have like Light Fangs or those huge scaling things. So you buying a unit that is giving like 12 health to everything, that's giving like +6/+6 to your entire board, that's amazing. You are
Yeah.
going to dominate at that point.
Also, that Felfin is a 4/4 to begin with, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
like a properly statted tier 3 minion almost. So it's kind of ridiculous. And also, like other people are tearing up during this time. They're tearing up to
Mhm.
4. They're tearing up to 5. You're not. So you're like 15 mana ahead of everyone else. Like you're gonna win. You're gonna win all your matchups. The one matchup you're not gonna win is the turn that you go to tier 3 because you're sitting there with like mostly tier 1 minions and like maybe one tier 2 minion, and you have to level up and pay a lot of gold because you don't want to stay at tier 2. So
Yeah,
that's the turn that you're going to lose.
you are going to take a little bit of damage, but if you play it in the way that you've been playing, or like that we recommend play, it's like uh, when you first get to tier 3, your placement within the lobby is probably going to be like
Number
fifth.
1. What?
I don't know, like probably like after you get like
Oh,
to tier
you
3.
mean after the battle that happens on the turn you get to
Yes,
the third? Okay,
yes,
I mean before
you're
you
going to be
click
like
the
fifth in the
upgrade
lobby.
button, you will be first.
I don't
Or
know about
like okay,
first, but
tied
you'll
for
be fine.
first.
You'll be
You
fine.
will be
You'll be
tied for
fine.
first. Or at most you would have gotten a hit on your turn 1.
I'll just say that you will be fine. But yeah, you are definitely going to take a hit on that turn. You farm up tier 3, and here's the most important thing: you farm until you have access to 2 pairs, 2 easy pairs, preferably tier 1 pairs, because you getting that seer pair or a seer triple or a Felfin Navigator triple, not easy. So preferably tier 1 and tier 2 pairs. And then once you hit the triple in the shop, plan your gold accordingly, such that either on that turn or on the next turn, you tier up to 4 and you triple immediately, because the discover rate, or the hit rate on your discovering a tier 5, it's so freaking high because
Yeah.
you're going for brand, Primal Fin Lookout, and also Bagurgle. All of them are utterly amazing for you. And especially with the Felfin Lookout, not only are you looking for the brand, or not the brand, freaking the Bagurgle, you can also search for the last member of the other pair that you have prepared.
Mhm.
And then after that, you want to go to
So
tier 5 immediately.
okay, so if you need to stay on tier 4, Like, I don't think that's absolutely terrible.
Nope, that's
Especially,
absolutely terrible.
I think you have to
Nope.
see whether you are what
Mm-mm.
how strong you are. If you need to like stay on tier 4 for a turn, you do it to not take a hit because
Nope. I would not.
okay, I would, because you will otherwise lose matchups, and you don't need to lose the matchups at that point. Um, so on tier 4, your ability to you're basically on tier 3. Your chances of rolling a tier 3 minion is exactly the same on tier 4 as on tier 3, and you also get access to one more Murloc for
Toxin sucks at that point, though.
yeah. I mean, especially with your probably like high attack Murlocs. But
Yeah,
even before
exactly.
then, like if you can, like, don't keep your Cold Light Seers, don't keep your Felfins, like, for more than, like, a turn. Because you can't triple them up, and because you want them in the pool. Each one you take out of the pool lowers your chance of getting them in the future. You're going to be chain rolling them. So, like, it matters, because you're going to be rolling essentially a lot, and you're only going to be rolling Murlocs. So your pool is smaller, so each -1 affects you more. So those are the 2 points I want to make. I don't think you absolutely have to level up to tier 5.
I mean, this is me being a little bit cheeky. It's not 100%, but it is very high.
Like, if you think you're going to
Very
lose
high.
the next match and you've already taken a hit, maybe even 2 hits if what you discovered on your level up to 4, then triple up to discover tier 5 was like a brand that wasn't helpful immediately and you took another hit, you don't want to take a third hit. You don't even
I
really want to take a second hit, but you really don't want to take a third hit. So if the difference of getting to turn 5 is that you will take a third hit, I wouldn't do it because it'll take you another turn to stabilize.
no, I would say like the only way I would stay on tier 4 is if I have like
Like for one turn.
no, for one, yeah, even for one turn, I would only stay there if I have like a 70%. If I think there's a 70% chance I will die, like
Like
die,
actually die?
actually die.
No,
Otherwise,
because
I'm
otherwise you
going
go to
fine.
tier
I'm going
5, you
fine.
have another turn of being hit. You have to calculate 2 turns in
No, no, no,
advance.
no. As soon as you get to tier 5, you're good. You're
No,
golden.
no, no. Getting to tier 5 takes your whole turn. So you're not golden when you get to tier 5. You take one more turn before you're golden.
Oh no, no, we're talking about it differently then. Like I'm leveling to 5, and then like the next battle, like basically like if I don't die, right? Like
Uh-huh.
it unless I think I am going to die, that's when I stay on tier 4. But it like I'm going to
Oh,
tier
okay, never
5,
mind. No, no,
and
I'm
I
thinking
don't
about it
care if I'm
wrong.
at
Yeah,
5
yeah,
HP
yeah.
after that.
Yeah, okay.
I don't care if I'm at 5 HP if I'm at tier 5, because then my pop off is going to be so big that, like, barring someone doing something stupid, I 100% win the next battle. And then after that, like, you
I
just
think
have
you need a
exponential
I
growth,
still
right?
think you need a buffer unless you already have a brand. Like if you have a
Mm,
brand already, maybe you can like, if you don't die immediately, you're fine. But without a brand, like especially if you're anticipating you're going to be hurt, that means you're already weak. So it takes one turn to catch up to where everyone else is, and then another turn to actually get ahead of everyone else and be safe. Like I don't know, that's because you're just gaining like how much total stats are you gaining in terms of like your +1+1s and your +2+2s and your +0+2s all together in one go. You're gaining like in total, maybe without a brand, you're gaining maybe +4+4 altogether, +5+5 at best. And if you're in a position where you had
to
lost
all
the
of your
turn before,
minions,
yeah, well, to
yeah,
all your
that's
Murlocs,
that's great.
yeah, it is great. But keep in mind, you've lost the turn before, and everyone else is gaining about +2/+2 to all their minions anyway. So you need to make up for all of that, and you're on very shaky ground this next turn as well. I'm not saying you're going to lose, but I'm saying you have maybe a 50-50 chance of winning or losing. Whereas if you stay on turn 4, you don't take a hit, then you go to turn 5, you take one hit there, the hit that you can take, and then you can like
No, no. The problem is the hit that you take there is a turn later, which means on average it's a lot more damage. Because like you losing a turn later isn't just like the damage that you take, right? Isn't the same. It's not like, oh, I will either take 10 damage now or 10 damage later.
yeah,
It's
but
like
you're taking like 2, 3, 4 more damage for a difference of one turn. Not even four, like 2 or 3 more damage on average.
no, because it depends on how much stronger you're getting versus your opponents, right? And if you're staying on 4, you're not getting that much stronger. So even if you make it past this turn while like minimizing damage or like tying or even winning slightly,
Yeah,
um
because if you win or tie, you also mitigate the 4 or 5. Well, probably 5 at that point, because you're probably not getting to 5 before other people. the 5 damage. So you get a 5 bonus damage. You're not going to make up for that by the amount that
No,
your
no, no,
opponent
but
hits
you
you.
take like you make up the damage that you quote prevented by losing the next round in which everyone has scaled up even more, and the total damage that
Yeah,
you
each
take
turn you
evens
scale up by
out.
2 to 3 damage.
No, no, no. It's gonna be like 5 more damage by that point if you are taking that damage.
But
Like,
it's not. That's not how the damage scaling works in the game. Like you're scaling up by something like 2 or 3 damage for each turn.
no, because on average, when you're doing that, that's when people have tiered up and are buying up the tier 5 units and the tier 6 units. Like that's the thing. It's
Right.
not just like, oh, this is how much stronger they get. Because if we're talking about the averages and then the times in which you're deciding whether or not to tier up to 5 and 6, you're trying to catch these comps right before they're able to mass collect these tier 5 units, which are going to chunk you in the face significantly. So in
See,
terms of
I think
just
you're
strength,
already behind. I think they already have their tier 5 units, probably some tier 6 units when you're in this scenario.
they have some, but it's like
Because what turn are you?
by
You're staying on turn 3 for like many turns. You've already stayed on turn 1 for like
I don't know
at
about
least 3
many
turns. You're staying on
turns.
turn 3 for like 3 turns, 4 turns. Turn 3 is pretty good.
No, no, not that long. Not
Oh,
that long.
okay. Well, so I'm just going slower than you,
Yeah.
which is fair because I generally want to go slower. Like I want
You
to
generally
secure.
do go slower than me.
Yeah, I
Just
want to.
period.
I just want to. I want to make sure that I'm not losing the early game because for Murlocs, if you spike something good, you're gonna win the late lobbies anyway. Like I don't think.
Yeah. I mean, but the problem I have with that is it's sort of like the thing that you talked about. It's like I will take damage with a much higher probability than you, right? Because I am playing quote riskier in that way, but I'm much more fine with taking damage that I know is controllable, like is fine. It's like before they have that like kind of big tier 5, tier 6 comp. Not really
So
big,
you
but like
would. So you
filled with
would
all
level
that
to 5
stuff.
on 20 health.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. If I can get there on 20 health, I'm just like, oh my gosh, yes,
Would you do
this
it
is
on
great.
15 health?
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Oh, I would definitely not do it on 15
Yeah,
health.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think 20 is the line.
No, no. If I get there, if you can guarantee that I get there, and then it's a state of
Well, no, I
how
don't
I'm getting
guarantee
there,
that
right?
you get
But
there. I'm just saying you have 15 health at the point that you click the level tavern up button.
oh, that I click.
Yeah. Would you do it? With,
Well, all
would you
right.
do it at 20
I
health?
mean, that depends on how strong I am. But no, I mean, I'll do it if I. But once again, it's like unless I think that there is a 70% chance that I will die, I will still click it because I think getting to tier 5 is so important. But I will typically
Well, yeah. I mean, you
do
definitely
it
don't have
earlier.
a. You definitely don't
Yeah,
have a 70% chance to die like at either
yeah, yeah.
15 or
Like
20
my
health.
situation is different. So, for example, I will be on like let's
So
say
at 15 health, you will upgrade to tier 5 because you are unlikely to die on that turn. You're unlikely to take 15 damage.
yeah. If I'm on tier 4 is useless. Like no matter what situation you
Tier
draw up
4
for
is
me,
the
it's
same
like,
as tier 3. It's not useless. It's just one more
no, no,
turn in
no.
tier
It's no,
3.
no, no, no. It's useless at that point of the game that we're at, right? I'm farming tier 3 when those +1, +1, +2, +2 buffs are outscaling everyone
Well, but
else.
you don't determine what stage of the game it happens. You do it when you get triples. Like the game decides what stage of the game you're at when you go to tier 4. You don't.
Yeah. Well, if you're chaining, you're gonna like, are you gonna chain properly and not get any triples in that point?
No, you will, but I'm
That's
just
like
saying you're
almost
not on the
impossible.
same
That's like
turn. Like you're not doing it. You're like when you play Flurgl, you can't ensure that you get to certain turns on certain times if you're going to wait for triples because it's all depending on the triples. Like you can have like percent chances of getting there here, but it's not certain. You don't
well,
know
yeah.
when
I
you're gonna
mean, the thing
have.
is, if I have like a rock pool pair, it's like statistically impossible for me to chain the number of times I'm chaining and to not get that triple, right? It's just like
But you may still be putting together more Murlocs. Like you have to have what at least like 5, except for the one that you're rolling minimum before you're comfortable going up. Because otherwise, you're still just getting a lot stronger by just adding like a permanent Murloc into your band.
yeah,
I
you're
don't
getting
know.
a lot stronger then, but it doesn't really matter. Like I'm not thinking about how much stronger I am now. I'm thinking like, okay, what is my when is the right time for me to take this hit? And sometimes I don't even take a hit, but when is the right time for me to take this hit? And a lot of times it's early on because it's like, all right, if
I'm
I
not saying like the majority of the times you don't go to 5, but I'm saying there's like a 25%, if not more percent chance that you stay on 4 for one turn because
I think
you've
it's closer to
already
like
leveled to
5%.
4. So at that
It's like
point, you're already
5%.
a little weak.
I will
Like assuming you haven't hit a Bagurgle.
no.
Like if you hit your brand, or you don't hit
Yeah.
anything, right? If you
I
hit
would say
brand or
unless you
nothing.
think that there's a decent chance that you're going to die by clicking that tier up to 5 button,
Uh-huh.
you just click that tier up to 5 button. But then once you're there, you just start the chain, you start doing that, and your scaling is insane. So, anyways, that's the way to that's the kind of outline of how to play Flurgl. He's not a meme character. He is one of those characters, and I would say he's really the only one that I believe has this huge discrepancy on HS replay. Where if you base it off HS replay stats, he is trash. He is
Mm-hmm.
a hero that you should literally never pick. That is like almost statistically impossible for you to get into a situation which you're like, oh, I should pick Flurgl because the game has to give you the 4 worst characters in the game. That's how bad he is according to the stats, essentially. Whereas I think it's like, okay, you definitely pick, the Rafam, the Yogg, um, the Daryl, like the Nazdormu over him, etc. Um, if you want to pick him like over a Deathwing, I wouldn't blame you. If you if you want to pick him over, I don't know, something like Unleash, I'd say that is like just kind of correct. Um, I think he's good. You guys should definitely try him out. I think he's kind of a hidden gem right now. There's a lot of misunderstandings about him. One of the problems is if you play him normally, you do go eighth. You do lose. You just flat out lose in spectacular fashion.
Well, because
And
his
I
hero power
think,
doesn't do anything if you play him normally.
yeah, it doesn't do anything. And once again, um, because I think a lot of people see Alex as a decent character and they know from playing Alex. And as a general good lesson from the game, it's like, okay, I can't hard force anything. I have to let the game sort of come to
Mm-hmm.
me. No, that's how you lose with Flurgl. Like this valuable golden rule that has been implanted in your head that is very good with all the other characters and it has helped you climb so far. You cannot apply that to Flurgl. You hard force Murlocs. Even if you start off with only dire wolves and alley cats, I was so tired of those freaking alley cats. Even if that's all you get, you keep on going down that pathway and you will come out of it just fine. But he has such a weird play style. It's unintuitive as well, and you just gotta practice it quite a lot, and he should be quite good. Once again, this is BG's, so I've been touting this in like some chats. Someone always is like, "But Merps." I've actually played him a few times, and I've used a strat, and I got like 6 both times. And my only response is like, even if you play him optimally, getting 6 twice in a row is it's Battlegrounds. It's Battlegrounds. Like we have great decks in Arena that go, 1 or 2 wins. You can play optimally with good heroes. Like, do really, really tippy top leaderboard players still go like 6 in a row twice with Yogg? Yeah, that's like totally not out of the ordinary, right? But believe in him. Practice this playstyle that I just kind of outlined, and I think you'll find him to be quite good. He's very fun as well. There's something very satisfying about just buffing your entire board.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And is the thinking is not as hard as you think if you're thinking that it's a very complicated character because once you start chaining, you like make the decision to start chaining, and then you're just chaining. You're just buying the Murloc that the chain gives you, selling the Murloc that the chain gives you, buying the next Murloc the chain gives you, selling the Murloc. Like it becomes pretty mechanical once you decide to chain.
Yeah.
The one decision point is when to level to 5, and then whether to, if you are at 5, whether to roll for a brand or to chain. And the answer is always roll for brand and then chain. assuming you're not going to
Well,
assuming you're
yeah.
not going to like fall behind a lot.
Don't hard roll. Don't complete tunnel vision. But so that's definitely one of the skills involved
well,
in playing.
you're not hard rolling.
It's
You're
like
still
balancing.
gonna pick Murlocs when you get them. You know,
Yeah,
like the ones
definitely.
that buff your stuff at least.
Yeah, there's definitely some gray areas in there. You'll be faced with some choices, and that's part of the skill. Like tier 5 is where you make a lot of like interesting little decisions between rolling and also just buying. But that's also where the fun is, right? It's like, man, that's where you get to really use your hero power and where your hero power truly shines. And then seeing that Flurgl pop up, that Primal Fin Lookout pop up, that's really really fun. Cool.
Yep.
All
All
right.
right. That's Flurgl. Secret top 10, maybe top 6 hero in Hearthstone.
You bought into it so fast. Oh my god.
Well, because I did like that
You
was
love it.
not. I didn't get Bran. I thought you needed a Bran.
You don't need a brand.
I didn't get a Megasaur. I thought you needed a Megasaur to get first. I beat everybody very handedly all the time. Like the entire way through, except for like a couple turns when we were like leveling, right? Like you take a hit on when you level to 3, you take a hit when you level to 5. But yeah, like otherwise, I didn't think I rolled particularly well. And I definitely had a lot of like leakage in that because it was my first time playing Flurgl. But it's just powerful.
It's
Like
very powerful.
raw
I like him.
Murloc stat, it's powerful.
Yeah.
All right. That's it from us at the Lightforge. This was a long one, but we had a lot of stuff to talk about. We'll see you guys next week for a shorter Lightforge. Yeah. Anything else to add?
That's it. Let's get out of here.
All right. See you guys. Until then, this is ADWCTA.
This is Merps. Bye, guys.